Hello and welcome to task 2 of our SQL injection video series. So in this task we're going to learn about what databases are. Let's read this text together. If you are not using databases or exploiting them, there are probably some new terminologies to get used to, and we're going to see all those terminologies in the following text. So here, what's a database? A database is a way of electronically storing collections of data in an organized manner. A database is controlled by a DBMS, which is an acronym for Database Management System. So DBMSs fall into two categories. So we have relational and then non-relational. So for this particular exercise, we're going to be trying to limit ourselves to the relational database types, where we have MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Access, which is like a Microsoft database system, and then part of the Microsoft Office suite. And then we have Postgre SQL, and then we also have a light version which we call SQL Lite. So all this will be explained in the coming text. So within a DBMS, you can have multiple databases. So a database management system can hold several databases. So for example, you have an illustration of what that means here. So you have a database server, which is probably hosting or having a DBMS software, and then these are the various databases. So you have your database 1, which is shop. You have staff as also another database, and then database for accounts. So that is how it is. And then under the databases, you can have tables. So we coming to learn about what tables are, but you just have to be aware that in a database it stores several tables that contain some useful information. So now we come to what tables are. So a table is made up of columns and rows. A useful way to imagine a table is like a grid with columns going across the top from left to right, containing the names of cells and rows, and then rows going from top to bottom. So we have columns going from top to bottom, and then rows going from left to right. So this is the structure of a database table. So here they are now talking about what columns are. They say each column better referred to as fields. So in some parlance you may hear fields. So if you hear fields in relation to databases, they're just talking about columns. So when creating column, you also set up types. So the type of data that's going to be stored in the columns. So common data types that they can be used are integers, strings, or dates. So in some database management system, you may come across variable characters, which we always call varchar. Alright, so some databases can contain more complex data, such as geospatial, which contains location information like coordinates, longitude, latitudes, and other location information. So setting the data type also ensures that incorrect information isn't stored. So it's a kind of trying to validate the data before they are stored into the database, so that they don't cause trouble, later on. If this happens, the database server will usually produce an error here. So it will throw an error so that you know that the data you are trying to store doesn't conform to the type that you want to be stored in that particular field. Alright, a column containing an integer can also have an auto increment feature enabled. Yes, so this is mostly like in particular with IDs. You don't want to rename any ID field, you want it to auto increment. So this gives each row of data unique number that grows or increments with each subsequent row. So doing so creates a key field. So mostly you always have a primary key which is unique across. So a key field has to be unique for every row of data, which can be used to find that exact row when you are doing sending SQL queries. So that's about columns. And then we also have rows. So rows or records contain individual lines of data. When you add data to a table, a new row or record is created. When you delete, then that row or record is deleted. So now we come to relational versus non-relational databases. So relational databases store information in tables, and often the tables share information between them, so they are related. The tables are related in some way. They use columns to specify and define the data being stored, and rows usually to store the data. So the tables will often contain column that has a unique ID, often called a primary key, which will then be used in other tables to reference it and cause relationship between them. So that's about relational databases, but that's not the only type we have. We also have non-relational databases, sometimes called NoSQL. On the other hand, any sort of data that doesn't use tables, so they don't use tables, columns, or rows to store data. A specific database layout doesn't need to be constructed, so they don't have any particular structure, so it's more flexible to deal with than relational database. So we have some popular non-relational databases like MongoDB, Cassandra, and Elasticsearch are example of these non-relational databases. So now we have an overview of what databases are. I think we have some questions to see if we actually remember what we went through. So here they're asking about what is the acronym for the software that controls a database. I think there should be a data DBM. Yes, asking about acronyms. So this acronym stands for Database Management System. Let's see if we are right. Okay, so we are correct. What is the name of the grid-like structure which holds the data? So the grid-like structure, I think that has to do with table. So table, let's use singular and see if it's not right. Then we have to use plural. Okay, so that's right. So that's what they were actually looking for. And this brings us to the end of task 2. So watch out for task 3 in our next video. Thank you.